Hey, so back to Cocky Gachas, and in this video we're going to take a look at Erika that just came out in Eversoul. And of course, first things, we're going to look at her stats. And here, from what I can see with her artifact applied, right, for Intel healer or Intel supporter itself, these are average stats, very identical to Jiho's. Nothing too spectacular on the attack front. Of course, Prim is rocking like 65k attack. I'm not sure why Prim has so much attack, but that also means that Prim's heals are much stronger. But here, Erika itself, I think the rest of the stats are pretty average. Next, we're going to take a look at her skill set. Although we usually start with the first sub-skill, but this time I think we should start with her third sub-skill because Eureka is super important to a kid, and once you understand Eureka, you understand how Erika works. So Eureka here, what it does is that she creates a potion from an idea that suddenly came up, right? Increasing her attack for 8 seconds, as well as gaining the, most importantly, special Eureka buff. And this would activate skills additional effect. So all her skills have this additional effect tied to it. So there is a Erika 1 and there is a Eureka 1 and there is also a Eureka 3. But it only activates at certain percentages, right? So at max is attack increasing to 20%, chance for Eureka 3 increase to 50%. So Eureka 1, if she were to be under Eureka sub-skill buff, she would always use Eureka 1. Right, additional effect of Eureka 1 will always be applied. However, for Eureka 3 to apply, there is only a 50% chance every time she does it under Eureka buff, right? So this is where the problem lies, right? So she is kind of like an RNG machine in that sense, because 50% is not guaranteed, right? However, what is important here to take note is that when looking at her kit, we need to take a look at what are the Eureka 1 buffs and what are the Eureka 3 buffs, because if her Eureka 1 buffs are decent, then we don't really need to kind of look at her Eureka 3 in the sense of RNG, right? Because if the guaranteed part is good, then we don't need to care so much about the RNG part. So that is what we need to take note when going into her kit itself. So going into a kit, we are going to first touch on her first poisonous potion. So what this skill does is that she would throw a poisonous potion at the furthest target and dealing damage as well as damage over time for 10 seconds. And at Eureka 1, which is guaranteed, she's going to decrease target's attack for 10 seconds. At Eureka 3, which is not guaranteed, it's 50%, she's going to decrease target's defense for 10 seconds. So at max, she's going to do 130% damage as well as poison damage for 65%. And here, although they didn't specify, you might think that it is every 1 second, so like times 10, right? No, it's every 2 seconds. There is a translation error or something lost in translation here. So it's every 2 seconds, meaning 5 ticks. So it's 65% times 5, that is 325% plus 130%. So this is quite a hefty damage skill itself. But of course, her being a supporter, right, she's not going to benefit that much from it, but still very decent. But the main part comes with Eureka 1 and Eureka 3, right? So here, right, there is actually another translation error. So here they say that Eureka 1 is defense decreases to 24%, Eureka 3 is attack decreases changes to 24%. But in fact, it is it's different, right? It's attack for Eureka 1 and defense for Eureka 3, which is super important because the defense part is what I am more interested in, to be honest, when I'm looking at her kit. Because minusing defense, right, she can combo very well with like a Jacqueline, because Jacqueline can jump on the furthest target, right? With the reduced defense, Jacqueline can delete the target very, very fast. Or you can combo with someone like a Adrian to pull their furthest unit that has reduced defense to the front line, so she would die very fast. But yeah, there's an error here. Is defense first, right? The base one is correct, so attack and then defense. Which also means that her good part is locked behind Eureka 3. So this is a main concern with her sub-skill. And then next, we are going to talk about her second sub-skill, which is Giant Potion. This is basically her healing part, right? Healing sub-skill. 180% of attack at base. And then yeah, Eureka 1 increases target's physical and magical resist by 16% for 12 seconds. Eureka 3, which is a 50% not guaranteed, additional restores target HP by 90% of attack. So here at max, it's going to be 220% as well as a additional 110% if 50% hits. Otherwise, it's just going to be 220%. And for context, when comparing to other healing sub-skills, Jiho's healing sub-skills give 60% for every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So meaning it's 180% healing over time, while Erika here is a burst heal. So burst heal is generally better. And this is a single target burst heal, which is decent. Next, the Eureka 1 is what we are really going to be interested in, which is physical and magical resist increasing for 24%. And for context, for comparison, Chloe's one-time passive increases physical and magical resist by 50%. So this is like half effectiveness, but you can use it quite a lot of times, right? Because this sub-skill itself is going to be repeated a lot of times. Later, we're going to talk about her sub-skill rotations, and you're going to understand why this is important also. And then next, we are going to take a look at her main skill, which is the Magnum Opus. So Magnum Opus here is a healing main skill. Of course, she's a healer, she needs a healing main skill. And here, targeting the lowest HP ally and as well as nearby allies within 2.5 meters AoE for 220% attack at base. And then Eureka 1 gives her additional heal. Eureka 3, which is 50%, once again, gives her a additional barrier, or gives the target an additional barrier. That is at max, right? 260% heal, right, for Eureka 1, which is guaranteed if she has the Eureka buff. So 380% for a main skill heal, and 50% chance there is going to be an additional 200% shield. And this is AoE, right, in a sense, 2.5 meters. So you would generally want to pair her up with multiple tanks, right? In a scenario that I can imagine sort of is like maybe a tank with Valena. So two of these units, or in Beast faction, is pretty useful because most of the units like Mika, Siha, as well as Ira, honestly everyone, right, in Beast faction except for maybe Honglan Flynn are like a melee unit. So definitely those can benefit from her AoE heal. But otherwise, you can treat her like a single target if you use her with someone like Jacqueline, someone like a Lindsay, right? Because usually Lindsay, Jacqueline's, when they jump to the backline, they would receive damage and they might potentially become the lowest HP unit. So this is her main skill. And honestly, her Eureka 1 and Eureka 3, there's not much difference, right? So I wouldn't say there is a good part to it, but of course it's good to have additional shield, but it comes at 50% chance. And for comparison of the 380% under Eureka buff, it's comparable to Jiho's main skill. I think Jiho's main skill does 440% attack if I'm not wrong. So definitely comparable, not as good, but with the shield, it's decent. And that 50%, right, because we all know probability is 50% plus expected result. So it's 100% shield, as strong as Jiho, you can say that, right? And now finally, we come to her ultimate skill. And to be honest, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but I would say it's Ars Magna, kind of sus. So her ultimate skill basically is a healing skill, and it restores all allies' HP by 280% of attack. And at Eureka 1, all allies become immune to damage for 3 seconds, while at Eureka 3, increasing all of the allies' attack by 22% for 10 seconds. However, I think there's a part here, right? If your ally can't be healed, that means there's heal block, then you can't benefit from this attack itself because you need to be healed to benefit from the attack, if I'm not wrong. That's that I haven't specifically tested in that scenario yet, but that's what I assume. Next, at max is going to have 340% heal, and then also the duration for immunity is going to be changed to 5 seconds, and the Eureka 3 is the attack buff that is going to be changed to 30%. So arguably, I think that if you want to really use this defense ultimate itself, right, normally I would tell you that defense ultimate, I wouldn't at all touch it. And the only reason why I would remotely use a defense ultimate skill is because it comes with attack aspect, right? So yeah, the fact that this doesn't come with any attack aspect except for like the attack buff, I think it's quite mediocre. The only niche part is probably at Eureka 1, the guaranteed under Eureka buff, right, damage immunity for 5 seconds. It might be pretty useful, but as of now, I still can't really find content whereby you definitely need it. It might be in Guild Boss, but as of current content, shouldn't be a need for you to use this ultimate, and the fact that this is tied to ultimate is pretty sad. I think that is the part or reason why she is a bit mediocre. And on screen right now, you can see this is an artifact skill, Genius Alchemist, and what it does is that when using the Eureka skill, her mana is going to be restored by 500, her speed is going to be increased by 10% for 8 seconds, which is also the full duration of Eureka itself, and also adds an effect to the Magnum Opus and Giant Potion. Magnum Opus is her main healing skill, Giant Potion is her sub-healing skill. And this both, right, removes 2 debuffs effect from the target now. So at base, it's pretty decent, I would say. Removing debuffs for her healing skills are very useful, and honestly, there are a lot of healers now, more and more healers that are removing debuffs, right? So it also kind of drives the debuffing meta down a bit, which I think is going to reduce the Memphis stock once again. But regardless, at Legendary Plus, speed increase is going to be at 25%, and then also adds an effect to Poisonous Potion skill, which removes 2 buff effects from the target. So honestly, this whole artifact itself, right, if she doesn't have this artifact, she's going to be really, really bad. And that is because her whole kit revolves around having the Eureka buff. And if she cannot maintain the uptime of her Eureka buff, she's going to be very, very ineffective. Her skills without Eureka buffs looks really bad. And even with the Eureka buff, with Eureka 1 buff, she barely makes the mark. And at Eureka 3, if she can consistently hit the 50%, right, if super lucky, super luck box, hit the 50%, I would say it puts her above average at best. And the reason why is because she needs to constantly cast this Eureka, right? So it also makes it very important for her to have a higher speed. And that is why this artifact is so important to her. And every time you upgrade it one time, you're going to get additional 5% speed. And I would say that at L plus it's still not that decent. It's 25% speed, sure, but later when you look at her sub-skill rotation, you would understand why I say so. So moving on, next we are going to touch on her rotation, her skills rotation. So going to battle, she's instantly going to use Eureka to give herself the buff, right? So now all her skills have the Eureka potential, and now she's going to throw a poison bottle. As you can see here, the 50% did not hit, right? There's an RNG aspect to it, and then after which she's going to do 1 normal attack and then Eureka again, and then she's going to use the second sub-skill, which is the healing one, which also gives physical and magical resistance. So this one, her rotation is very simple, right? So every time she's going to use Eureka, one of the skills, and then normal attack, Eureka, one of the skills again. And for her rotation itself, I'm going to list out a few of my problems with it personally, and also some of my problem with her skill. So here Eureka, you can see, right? She uses this Eureka, she first bends down, and then she prepares the potion, and then throw the buff. So it's not instant, and what might happen if you were to play it on Mano and you have other sources of mana recovery, the problem can be quite apparent. It would be that you might accidentally cancel your own Eureka if you're not watching. Look at this, I can just cancel my Eureka, right? Imagine you have to use the ultimate and at a niche, like a very appropriate timing to have the immunity, right? But you don't have the Eureka buff. It's going to be hell for you, so you can be manually cancelled. And what implications does it have when she cancels her Eureka skill? Very simple. Once she cancels her Eureka skill, the next time she's going to cast her Eureka is going to be delayed. Why? Because her speed up is tied to her Eureka skill, which is a chain of problems, like falling down the hill more and more. It's a snowball rolling. So other than that, the next problem I have with her rotation is that when she does come into the battle the first time, she's going to use Eureka, and then she's going to throw the poison bottle first. Oh my god, Erika, why are you throwing the poison bottle first? The reason why you guys might be thinking, hey Cocky Gachas, why are you complaining about this? The reason is because in my experience when using Chloe as a tank, a lot of times or sometimes, right, there are certain stages, I would say in the whole of chapter 17, I have maybe 2 stages whereby I cannot really tank with a Chloe, and the points at which she dies, right, is usually because the bees reach their first sub-skill, and the first sub-skill, like Ira's first sub-skill, just bam, and then kills Chloe, or Dora's first sub-skill. So the first sub-skill is very important for survival when it comes to such a tank. And what is Erika doing exactly at that moment? She is throwing her poison bottle instead of giving physical and magical resist to the tank. I'm not sure whether this is going to be a big deal, but from what I can see from my experience, I think it might be, right? I really need the physical magical resist. I don't really need the poison bottle as much yet, right? And given the fact that the poison bottle has a 50% chance of not even applying the defense buff, which is the good part of it, to the furthest target, right? Even if I have a Jacqueline jump on the target, there is a chance that the target would not have defense decrease. So I would rather have the consistency of having a stronger tank unit or having Jacqueline go inside, her getting the physical magical resist is going to be a lot more beneficial, right? So that's my problem with this itself and her reliance on the Eureka uptime in general. And of course, it's also important to explore some of the potential teammates that Erika have, and because I do not have Erika, I've not tested her extensively, I would not say that this is a full analysis. I would not provide specific lineups. I haven't tested them. I don't know whether they are good lineups. I don't want to recommend to people any bad lineups. So don't want to spread misinformation. We're just going to talk about potential good teammates. And the first one is definitely Jade. And the reason why is because very simple, right? When you have a 50% RNG chance, right? To make it as close to possible as 100%, only one that you can use is probably Jade. And 30% here, and then without artifact, it's 15% extra, so 95% chance that her Eureka 2 is going to activate. And this is very important, especially for her poisonous potion, because the defense down is something that I can potentially see it being very useful to make the battle results more consistent. Although I would say that with Erika, I would prefer to just go the RNG route, where I go the retry button instead of like forcing Jade. Because if you were to use Jade also, you have to consider who else you're going to use her with, and potentially you might use her with Naya, but who else, right? So using Jade itself is not that ideal as of right now, I think. So yeah, this is one of the potential teammates. And another good teammate I can see is Claire, and I feel like Erika sort of fulfills that Jiho role, but she also can heal slightly earlier, given that her sub skills also heal pretty good, right, as a burst heal. So if you have a Claire and you are running Jiho now, you think that Jiho might not be enough for you to survive, you can plop in the Erika as well, or you can use Erika to substitute Jiho and see how that goes for you, right? Potentially it might be better for Claire's survival. So this is one of the other units that I'm looking at as a good teammate. Next, we're also going to take a look at Jacqueline. Like I've mentioned, pairs very well with Erika, except for maybe defection wise. But the reason why this is good is because Jacqueline jumps to the unit at the back, and then Erika can throw the potion to lower the defense, so Jacqueline can delete that unit very, very fast. Similarly, Adrian is somewhat like Jacqueline. Instead of going to the back to target the unit, she pulls that unit to the front, and because that unit now has a defense buff, it's going to be much easier to knock off or kill off once she's being put to the front. And of course, we are also going to want Vivi on her team, on Erika's team, because of the speed buff. Very important. Speed is absolutely essential to Erika's succeeding. And the problem with Erika itself is that she doesn't have enough speed, right? And the artifact kind of needs a bit of investment before it actually becomes good. So when it comes to Erika's pros and cons, I think it's quite straightforward. When you look at her kit, you should understand that Erika is a super good healer because she has 3 heals, right? Of course, ultimate, maybe you don't want to use it, but her ultimate gives invincibility. So invincibility is pretty insane at the right timing. And also, her sub skill can also heal, burst heal as well, and her main skill can also heal, also a burst heal and potentially AoE as well. And another advantage of Erika is that she is a fairy. So if you were to pair her with Vivi, it makes sense, right? Pair her with fairies. Fairies are a very strong faction, so her being a fairy kind of compensates a bit for her lacklusterness when it comes to other stuff. As for Erika's cons, unfortunately, I have quite a bit to list. And the first thing is her strength, right? Her strength is her weakness, and that is because she is too strong of a healer. When you have so strong of a healing kit, that means that your offensive kit is very lacking. Unlike other strong units or meta units, right? They can also act as offensive or also defensive, right? So like a Talia, her ultimate can be offensive, her overall kit is support, right? So there are both sides to the coin, but for Erika, it's very straightforward. She's just healing, except for maybe the defense aspect, which is also RNG. So as of current content, I don't think there is much need outside for maybe PvP. And that is the reason why I think I'm a bit confused as to why she exists right now in the game. And also another con is that, like I've demonstrated earlier with her rotation itself, it also doesn't make sense when she uses a poison bottle first, and also the fact that when you play on Manor, you might potentially cancel Eureka and then there's a snowball effect, right? So that might be attributing to personal skill, right? If you were to use to cancel her Eureka, maybe you can say that it's a skill problem, skill issue. You just have to get good. But I think that it should be a problem as well, right? Most people might unknowingly click on that once the shiny thing appears, right? A main skill appears, you're just going to click it for the heal itself, and then you unknowingly cancel Erika, and that might be a problem as well. As usual, we are also going to give Erika some ratings for different aspects or different content in the game, and first we're going to start with PvE. Personally, I think Erika is a 3 out of 5 in PvE, simply because I think that her role can be easily fulfilled by any other healer. I don't think she is that important given the fact that I mentioned, right, the game doesn't need that many like massive heals. It more likely need you to have DPS, and her kit lacking important support skills like mana, like speed. I think she's not going to be super strong. Potentially she might be useful in Fairy Gates, but I've personally cleared Fairy Gate 125 without Erika, right? Before the introduction of Erika, I didn't found that we really need Erika. And then next, I'm going to touch on her PvP, and for PvP, I'm going to tell you that Erika is potentially a 4.5 or 4, right? I think that Erika, this is the only aspect that Erika shines in the game, because there is potential for her to use those massive heals, and that is in an Ultra Store team in PvP. So if you're defending, right, if you guys don't know, if you're defending in Arena, you just need to store till the time is up. And with Erika itself, she fits right into that healing, stalling role, and I think she can potentially be very strong, especially when her guaranteed aspect is minus attack, right? So in a stalling team, you want to reduce their offensive powers as much as possible. So I think Erika might fit in there. PvP defense, very strong. I'm going to give her a 4.5 out of 5. As for the bossing aspect, I'm going to give Erika 2.5 out of 5. Honestly, based on previous like Chloe event, right, unless there is new mechanics being introduced to the guild boss itself, straight up, she is not good for guild boss, because her defense minus defense aspect is RNG, 50% only, not consistent, and also the fact that she don't have any like other aspects such as increasing speed, like increasing mana, means that she's not going to be really that wanted as a support unless the introduction of the new guild boss has specific mechanics or requires massive single target heals. I don't see Erika being that strong. And for the golden question of is she worth your Everstones, honestly, I'm leaning more towards no. However, in certain circumstances, maybe it might be beneficial. One being if your Talia is not your main carry. If your Talia is not a main carry, for Gates itself, you might want to use Erika, because not using Talia out means that you're going to have a bit lacking in the healing aspect. So using Erika might be good. Also, if you're a beginner without any other healers, you might potentially want to get one copy of Erika, although I would argue that as a beginner, you would probably want to focus all your Everstones onto getting that first carry to Origin, which is much more important. So it's really up to you. But overall, I think that even if you were to draw for Erika, I would suggest going for 1 or 2 copies max, because origining her really does no one any good. And at the end of it, we are going to try our luck, right? We don't have Erika yet. We're just going to see whether we can get it from this epic shot. So let's see what we get. Right here, it's a freaking Jade, right? We all know it's not going to be any good, not even Erika, so I can't even test her. But on my own, I've tested Erika a bit, and honestly, she is decent for a beginner account, but for my personal account, I don't think it's that useful. Now, while Erika is newly released, it doesn't mean that it's the only thing that is coming new to Eversoul. So definitely check out this video over here to check out what is coming in Eversoul. It's really spicy, so I'll see you guys over there. This is Corky Gachas, signing off.